Well, thank you very much, Ajwa. Let me weigh in on those two questions, and especially when it comes to my guests. Let me start with you, Dr. Ernest Kranting. I mean, what's your expectation when it comes to who do you think will win the trophy behind you?
It's difficult to say that from the beginning. My experience following the World Cup, covering the World Cup, not many people get it right from the beginning when you're predicting or when they predict. Because maybe you do that on the basis of your emotions and your biases, etc. But if you're to do the analysis and say, okay, this is for, this is against, and as a result, this team will emerge winner, it is not an easy task. And I could take you back to many, many World Cups. But this one in particular, I was saying somewhere earlier today that it will be a completely different World Cup. So that it will be akin to what we saw back in 1994, 32 years ago when the USA hosted it. The weather conditions haven't exactly changed. And it is important. This is different from what Qatar did because they tried to create a European feel and atmosphere for the World Cup. The Americans won't do that. They're up to about 40 players from the MLS that will play for different teams in this World Cup. I mention MLS because the players who play there regularly are used to these weather conditions because when Europe is done, close the books, these guys are still playing football in June and July. It will count for something, okay? Also like in 1994, when we had the increase in numbers from 86 and 90. We also have 48 teams going into this World Cup, up from 32, 16 more teams. And I will not put myself in a position where I say, okay, this team is going to win it even before kickoff of the game. I will wait and see, okay, when the tournament starts, and it's not like I'm trying to be very careful, but let the tournament kick off, and then we see. But obviously, there are teams we've all mentioned are the favorites. France, because of their attacking firepower, and the fact that they've been there the last two finals. We're talking about Spain because of everything they have done the last 4 years, especially 2 years winning the Euros and coming into this one. Not many people are mentioning Argentina because they feel they will go into this tournament not aiming to win it angrily like they did 4 years ago, but that's what makes them dangerous. I will tip them as well. Some have mentioned England and not sure which other country. So England, Spain, France, Argentina, no, not in the top four, are the three teams many think will win this World Cup. But I wait for kickoff. And then we see which of these teams will self-destruct and which of them will manage the burden of being expected to win it all.
Okay. And so we have Dr. Ernest Kranting not wanting to commit, but he will be back.
From the beginning.
He will be back. He will be on a number of matches as well. And he says that when the tournament progresses, he would have a pick in mind. And so we'll get back on that as well. But Graham, are you also of a similar stance, or do you have a clearer picture of who you think will be winning this?
Mostly I won't go there, but I like the behind the scenes. And so particularly excited to have Jonathan Mensah as one of the photographers, former Black Stars defender, now turned photographer. And I'm told he's going to be one of the main focus, I guess, at the tournament though, as a photographer. So that's also another interesting story for me for this year's World Cup. And of course, one country I'm just looking to see how they perform, the Curacao. Their qualification is a bit interesting for me, and I want to see how the underdogs or smaller countries fared there. But in terms of the teams that do or would do better, I think, again, would want to go by the same list. Some have also called Portugal to also come clean here with something. And so, this hunger in Ronaldo to rival what Messi has done. And so, obviously, this World Cup, there are those who feel that Portugal really have a squad and the players want to fight for Ronaldo to win it there to equal that of Messi. And then so there's a talk about Spain. I've talked about them already. Brazil, I'm not too sure what the current talent pool is like in terms of what they intend to do at the World Cup, though I've seen them play against, Panama, and really it's one game that I felt like, okay, they also struggled a little bit, but eventually they won. Then you can also, I don't know why nobody's talking about Germany. I guess
the tournament team, eh?
Yeah,
they go into every tournament expected to win.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then for Belgium, I wouldn't be able to put my money on them though. But I think it's Spain, Portugal. I'm looking at France.
You didn't mention England, eh? You're not sure.
It's coming home sometimes. It becomes a cliche, but you don't want to go there with that anyway. But I think I don't know, but I have this feel about Brazil, but I don't know. I'll just wait a little bit and see how it goes.
But the real truth is, it will be very tricky for anyone to stick their necks out and say, okay, based on the analysis I have done and the numbers and the strength of the squad, etc., I'm sticking my neck out. This team will win it. I don't know how many times we get it right. I'm saying this is a tournament. You finish playing 3 games in the group stages. You still have a round of 32 to play. Or by making sure they go past, 7, 8 games? Mm-hmm. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do not think that you can do that on the basis of, like I said, your feelings, your emotions, your thinking that, okay, this is it. But to get it spot on and say, because of all of these factors, this is a standout team. So we can mention a number of standout teams. And like Graham was saying, I mean, you mentioned Portugal and what the hunger is for Cristiano and whether his teammates will play for him. You mentioned England because we talk about Harry Kane and his form and some of the players from other clubs like Rice and a few others. You talk about Spain because of what they've been doing. But Spain is going into this tournament. And for everything we saw them do in the Euros, it was on the flanks.
Yeah.
It was Nico and Yamal.
Yeah.
These are players who may not necessarily be deeply involved in the first game, for instance. They may have to grow into the tournament. I don't know Unai Simon's level at this point because we all saw how disappointing it was throughout the season. Will the coach be bold to say, I am doing the Barcelona goalkeeper or David Raya or someone like that? We've also talked about France. And this is a team that can easily self-destruct, especially if Mbappe decides not to play for everyone. You remember the World Cup final of 4 years ago?
Yeah.
And how he was anonymous for how many minutes? And then in 15 minutes, he decided to turn it around. Yeah. Is that the Mbappe we're getting throughout this? Because we know that if France will take, Mbappe has to be there.
But obviously, there's this little tension in N'Golo Kante, Mbappe sort of beef.
Yeah, and even Mike Maignan. Eh?
Yeah.
And even Mike Maignan.
So that's also, I don't know how they're managing it though, but I'm just hoping it does not play out in that open space there because this, I mean, it's just a friendly game and we just saw the picture. The media is really, hammering on that aspect, which for me it's not healthy for the players.
No, come on, you can't tell the media what to do now.
I'm not
sensationalism sells.
I get that, but I'm saying that currently, psychologically, it's not really good for the team out there going into a major competition where the spotlight obviously is on Mbappe and whatever he's able to do there. But you said sensationalism. You're hammering on N'Golo Kante, but I get that. But the point is, for me, if you're going to go into competition with these negatives hanging around you, I don't know how internally it's being managed, but they have to find a way to do it.
They have an experienced coach.
Let's talk about the tournament structure. I mean, we've spoken about the favorites, but for the first time, we're going to see 48 teams. Yeah. For the first time, a team can finish third and qualify. Yeah.
No, okay, at the World Cup level.
Yeah, at the World Cup level. We've seen similar bits of some of these rules being extended to some competitions like the AFCON, the Euros, and even to some extent the UEFA Champions League. They increased the number of teams from the regular that we saw. Using those sample sizes and the fact that everything is coming together at this World Cup, what's your general overview? One, there are people who think that the World Cup should belong to a unique, smaller number of countries that makes it hard to get. So that when you get there, you're like, this is an experience that I really struggle to get to. The more you open it up, the less unique it becomes. There are some too that say, by opening it up, it makes it more representative. Teams like Curaçao can stand a chance, Cape Verde.
Haiti.
Where do you sit on this?
Think, when CAF changed the format for qualification, to under 17 AFCON, under 20 AFCON. We now have teams like Tanzania going to final against Senegal. Either two parts, you would never have them be there. You can now have Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, and the rest playing at semi-finals or quarterfinals of competitions that hitherto Botswana and the rest coming in. It was somehow seen as an elitist few competition. And let me go back. Today I was having a conversation with Sam Johnson, and we're talking about how difficult it was back then. With, I think initially it started with one country, with Zaire and the rest qualifying. Then it went to 2, then it went to 3, then at the point it went to 5. And you could see the difficulty, the whole continent of 50, how many countries, and only 5 of us had to qualify for the World Cup. That was how tough it was. And how many qualifications would you have to play to even make it to the next stage and to qualify? And so you could have Nigeria, for instance, qualifying for this World Cup. The next 2, 3 World Cups, they wouldn't qualify. Then you have another country. Yes, I can understand those who are saying that if you open it up, you have everybody. But again, what's the essence of sports? What's the essence of football? It's about representation, making vulnerable, because FIFA is investing. For instance, this FIFA Forward money that's been given to various federations. What's the essence of it? To develop football, to ensure that there's proper growth and development there. So if FIFA is going to invest money into federations to develop the game, and there's an opportunity for representation at the World Cup, how come they can't even qualify?
And also, I get the sense that FIFA is deepening this universality idea for football. Because now don't forget that football is not competing with just any sports. Football is competing with many other things. It is the reason there's this deliberate approach by federations, football clubs, competitions, to extend the conversation even beyond the end of the season. So we're trying to, that wedge that we used to have. So, the season has ended. Okay, so we shut down and we come back when the season reopens. You realize now they're trying to take that away, so there's no wedge, so that the football conversation continues throughout, even in the off season. Because if you shut down, by the time you reopen for the football season to start, other things would have taken the interest of people. So I get the sense that FIFA, just like all the other federations and football clubs and competitions, are doing everything to extend the universality of football. And also, don't forget, the Olympic Games. FIFA has over 200 member nations. I am looking at FIFA even extending the World Cup participant to more than 60 in the near future. No, but Infantino has mentioned that. No, Infantino has mentioned that. Because the idea is now, it's just a quarter of their members that are qualifying to play in the World Cup. If there are over 200 members and 48 are qualifying, well, that's like, 30% or something like that. So maybe, or 25%, they would want to increase it, expand it, because you look at the Olympic Games, over 200 countries get together to compete in the Olympic Games. And you realize the interest is also universal. Even for people who do not necessarily love sports, athletics, and all of that, it is the different countries that play in it. Curacao will give you a different story. When Ghana qualified for the first time in 2006, will give you something. Haiti will give you a different, and Haiti, we all know what they are going through politically, in governance and everything. So I think this is what FIFA is driving at. Let's open it up. Let's make it more universal. And as a result, we'll see more countries qualify.
Let me come back to you, actually, because we're joined now on Zoom by John Boafo, who is currently in Cote d'Ivoire. John, we've been having a conversation about the new format of the World Cup. It's a bit of a debatable topic because we've seen the numbers grow, and now it's 48 nations. And so we're just trying to find out, how the new format is going to affect the quality. I think we'll come back to John on that. But Graham, you wanted to say something.
You're increasing the numbers, but the host nations would have to spend a lot. So when it comes to mega sports events, there's a lot of financial, debate or whatever that goes on. For instance, you're talking about the 3 countries, how much they've spent so far in just hosting, and how many games are going to be played in Canada as compared to Mexico. A lot of the games we play in the US, and the budget obviously in the US is different from the 3. Now let's assume, and now we know the difficulties in terms of moving from one city or state or the other to play a game. Now, you're talking about a single country hosting close to about 60 countries, and then you're talking about the expansion of infrastructure and how that infrastructure is going to be beneficial to the country eventually after the competition. These are conversations that will be happening. So, in as much as FIFA may have the luxury of increasing the numbers, then you're talking about the host nations as well, whether they also have the financial strength to now go and bid and say we want to, host the competition. Other than that, only few countries will have the financial wherewithal to host the FIFA World Cup. Africa certainly would be left out. And the rotation that happened, it was only South Africa that had a chance to host it, and that's obviously is the end of the story. Morocco, the next World Cup is co-hosting with Portugal and Spain.
Yeah.
And that obviously is also the celebration of FIFA's centenary anniversary. And Uruguay would also have some matches to be played there in South America, obviously. But beyond that, then there's a debate about this co-hosting thing, whether it's feasible, whether it is friendly for fans in terms of movement. And then I've had my debate already regarding the migration story of how people want to go to Europe using Spain or using going through Morocco. And now you're going to have Morocco hosting the FIFA World Cup.
Yeah.
And obviously opportunity for people to migrate, obviously, to Europe. It makes it easy. But these conversations also come in play when it has to do with the hosting. So it will be a big debate for countries, whether they are ready to accept this.
So then,
Yeah, I mean,
it may increase the number of...
Let's go to Cote d'Ivoire now.
co-hosting.
I think John joins us now on this debate on, the number of countries that will be participating at the World Cup. John, we've been talking about the 48 countries that would be at the World Cup. I mean, it comes with its own advantages. Teams like Curaçao, Cape Verde getting an opportunity to join. There's also been argument about how that filters the quality and the ability of host countries to accommodate all of these countries. Where do you sit on these new structures? And it looks as if the number of teams keeps on increasing.
Choose from thousands of realistic voices to use in your content. Change the way you record podcasts, voiceovers, and branded content with the #1 AI-powered voice generating technology. Stop searching for the perfect voice.
Yeah, certainly the number of teams keeps increasing, but I think that within that lies an opportunity, especially for African teams. So for the first time, we have 10 teams from Africa representing the continent. So it's an opportunity for them to really, get more experience and play against the best in the world. So, there's pros and cons, but I'd like to keep the positive side of it, especially from an African perspective, and to try to see how far that we can get within this next tournament in the World Cup. And there's a lot of logistical things that are going to be a bit difficult, but I think that hosting last year the Club World Cup in the US would have also given them a little bit of a trial run to understand what the logistics looks like, what the security looks like on a smaller scale. But hopefully they'll be able to take those experiences and put on a great show for the World Cup.
And I mean, pardon my manners, but the first question that I actually asked all the pundits in studio had to do with who they think their favorites for the competition are. I'm joined by Dr. Ernest Cranton and then Benjamin Willie Graham, by the way. Both of them they found a nice way to dodge the question. They didn't really comment. they ended up talking about everything else but who they think will win. And some mentioned a few teams, a few names here and there. But what about you? Are you bold enough to commit?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I usually am not someone who likes to commit, but I did hear, both of them and their reaction to that. And I would say that if France is able to sort out the defensive frailties that they've showed in the last couple of matches and goes back to a team that relies on the defensive, solidity to be able to then move forward with the wealth of experience and the wealth of talent that they have up front with Mbappe, Dembele, Olise, etc. I think that they should be the clear favorites for them to win this World Cup. And they would be a team that would go down in history, similar to the Brazilian team in the late 90s and early 2000s, making it 3 times into the finals and hopefully winning it twice out of 3. So I'll be rooting for this French national team, and obviously I'll be rooting also for every single African team and the Black Stars starting off with.
Well, we'll be getting to the African teams much later, but just one more question on the French team. there's a certain thought sometimes that coaches want a smaller number of extremely top players, but it feels as if this French squad, it cannot pick a starting 11 out. Someone like Doué, Dembele, Cherki, Olise, Barcola, all of these names, maybe just 3 can start at the moment. It could be an advantage, but also it could be a disadvantage. The coach trying to really sort out, what his starting 11 will look like.
Did you know Ghana Memorial has an online condolence book so people can leave tribute?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't envy the kind of choices that he needs to make. But it seems like in the last friendlies and then over the last year, he's been more prone or more leaning towards having 4 attacking players. So if you remember the match that they had last week against Côte d'Ivoire, you had 4 attacking players, including Cherki, that were in the starting lineup. And even the last match that they played against Ireland, that they ended up winning by 3-1 with a hat-trick from Michael Olise. They were looking at having 4 attacking players. So I think that, especially in the first match, that's probably what you're going to end up seeing. And there's pros and cons to that, in the sense that if someone like Mbappe doesn't come back to defend, then the team might be a kind of out of balance. But there's so much talent in this French national team. And it'll also be interesting to see the dynamics between Mbappe and Ballon d'Or winner and, 2 times back-to-back winner, Ousmane Dembele, where the egos come out and who want to, put a little bit more of an imprint on this team. We all know that it's Mbappe's team because he's the captain, but how does the team also integrate this Dembele, because he was in fine form, and if you put him in the right kind of role, so more in that false 9 role, then he can really do wonders for the team. But that's the same role that Mbappe ends up playing it. So maybe the coach decides to go back to the old school Mbappe and put him on the left side. But there's a lot of questions that go unanswered, and I think finding the keys to getting the best out of this French national team will mean that Les Bleus will go as far as possible and hopefully, win it for the second time in 3 editions.
Well, we've just heard from John on France. John, stay with me because we'll come back to you when we come to the African teams, because I know you have a lot of interest on that. So John also lived a lot in France, and so he does have very huge knowledge when it comes to the French national team as well. But from France, let's move to their neighbors, England, because they are also getting ready for the World Cup. Remember that they've only won it once, and that came all the way in 1966. The question is, were you born when England last won it? Were you born?
That's when they last won anything.
Yeah.
But were you born?
Yes. I was about 5 years old at the time.
Don't do that. That's when Gary Lineker was Gary.
But were you born?
I was about 5
are you thinking about the question?
but just a quick one from John. John mentions, and I've heard few people mention it, where this French team will rank in the history of the best national teams if they go on to win this World Cup in this the last few years. And I say, we seem to be forgetting something, that we had a Brazil team that was in the World Cup final in '94, won it. Remnant of that team was in '98 final, lost 3-0 to the host, and in 2002 came back and won it. So they were in the final 3 times in a row and won 2 out of 3. So I get it that sometimes we're consumed by the immediate, and we easily maybe forget, but they've been great teams. They've been great teams by coaches who picked these players, put them together, knew when to drop some, add, and win. Because Brazil's run, having got into the final, won in 58, 62, and 70. So 3 finals in 4 editions. Came back in 1994, final, won it. 98, lost to host. 2002, won it. That's crazy. It is the reason they are undoubtedly the greatest national team in football history.
Well, let's now head to England and speak to Carl Anka of The Athletic just to find out what the expectation is for the Three Lions heading into the 2026 FIFA World Cup.
when Thomas Tuchel was first announced as the England manager not too long ago at Wembley Stadium, he said his goal was to add a second star to the England shirt. So the idea was initially, with his first contract, was championship or bust. The idea was to win the World Cup, make England another world champion once again. Interestingly, he signed a new contract extending him past the World Cup before the tournament began. Really, really interesting trend. Carlo Ancelotti also signed a new contract for Brazil ahead of the tournament as well. Not entirely sure as to why. It could be that the federations are both happy with their managers' work. It could also be federations trying to make sure that these managers don't take job offers from clubs like, say, Manchester United or Real Madrid or whoever. But very much the expectation before the tournament was, can Thomas Tuchel make England world champions again? England qualified for the World Cup in relatively confident mood. And if you look at the composition of the squad right now, Tuchel's created a 26-person squad designed to get the best out of Harry Kane. There has been some controversy over some of his omissions. Cole Palmer didn't make the squad, Phil Foden didn't make the squad, Harry Maguire didn't make the squad, neither did Morgan Gibbs-White. But Tuchel's been very, very clear. He wants to run the England national team a little bit more like a club team, a little bit more like his time at Chelsea. And he believes that an England team built around Harry Kane, around getting the best out of Harry Kane, is going to be England's way of getting there. However, you talk to more England fans, not only those travelling to North America, but those who are based domestically, and they believe England possibly, while they're among the top 5 teams, top 8 teams at the World Cup, a more likely goal might be quarter-finalists or semi-finalists. That final hurdle in the North American heat and the humidity might be a little bit too much for this group of players.